All right, we got a little bit of bad news today, but I'm going to keep this video positive. Um, the bad news that we got is that ALITA, for some reason, has dropped below 402 million. She lost about $1 million. The same thing happened last week when ALITA was at she was over $400 million. And then suddenly, the movie was back below, 399 million. It lost over $1 million that week and just last week. And so, it lost another $1 million this week, which is really strange. I don't know if this is really that common. Maybe it's just that now that we're paying attention to the box office more that we're noticing it. But it seems, well, we've always been, since this movie really got released, we've been paying attention to the box office. But I mean, before ALITA hit theaters, was anybody really watching the box office for other movies that closely? I'm assuming no. So we wouldn't know if this thing is sort of unique to ALITA or not. But it seems like it hasn't been happening before ALITA reached 400 million. So you can't help but think that since the movie reached 400 million and is now, it's a success. I don't care what anybody says about it. It's a success. It's not a big, huge hit, but it did exactly what it needed to do. The movie has a fan base now. There's a foundation for you to build a sequel on. The people who love the movie are diehard for it. They're going to show up. The people who catch the movie on DVD or on streaming, they'll probably end up falling in love with the movie and wishing they had seen it in theaters. And that's one of the reasons why I see it in theaters so much, because I know watching it at home is not going to compare to seeing it at the theaters. So I'm trying to see it as much as possible. So hopefully I get another chance to see it this weekend to make it number 16. But it never gets old. It never gets boring to me. That's another thing. I'm still smiling the whole way through the movie. And I think that is the highest praise that I can give a movie. I rarely ever see a movie twice. Rarely. I think I saw Infinity War once, and I was like, okay, I was like, okay, that was a good movie, and then I was done. Never thought I would ever see a movie 15 going on 16 times, and still thinking I could see it another 16 times. But anyway, let's look at those numbers really quick. First, I'll look at the date here, show you the date. This was on April 1st. Now, first I'm thinking, okay, maybe this is some kind of April Fool's joke. But it's a little bit late for it to be April Fool's joke. One day late. So on April 1st, the movie had $402,716 and $169. The domestic total, this is what's odd. The last time the movie dropped, the domestic total rose as well. So, I mean, it's good that we're doing better domestically. That's much better, domestically, the United States. I'm happy for that. But at the same time, why is the movie suddenly losing an entire $1 million? I'm hoping that this means that we'll get 2 million when it's finally fixed, and hopefully we don't lose money again. So here is it's kind of hard I should have drew a line in the middle so you can see it better. But on the top half, you see the 402 million from April 1st, and the bottom half is the total from today. Today is is it the 3rd or the 4th? I didn't even look at the date. But anyway, it's, now it's at $401,466 and $466 and $72. Okay. So the movie lost over $1 million. That is over $1 million. Suddenly, just poof, vanished. Just like last week. Strange happening, but we'll see. I'm going to keep this positive. I want to talk about I don't like to use the word empowering message because it seems kind of cliche, and I don't think it really means all that much really. But let's let's talk about how Alita controls her own destiny, which is something that people have been overlooking, judging by the negative articles written by feminists on her character. I'm going to tell you, there's going to be spoilers in this video if you haven't seen the movie. So one of the first things that Alita does when, I've already talked about how she falls and gets back up, right? We talked about how she constantly picks herself back up after a defeat, after a loss, even after getting her body cut in half and losing 3 limbs entirely and only having one arm, literally one arm left to fight with. And she continues to fight knowing that she's going to lose, that she's going to die, and she continues to fight, and she remains defiant in the face of unbeatable odds. Rather than plead, accept victimhood, she never accepts victimhood. She never buys into victimhood. And excuse my French here, but her refusal to buy into victimhood is summed up in one quote, and that is, "Fuck your mercy." That is her in a nutshell. She's not a victim. She doesn't need you to white knight for her. She doesn't need you to look down on her, to pity her. With one arm, she's still saying, "Fuck your mercy." I could just end the video right there, but let's go on. So the Mary Sue, feminists claim that I would use feminazi because I understand that the real feminists out there are not about this man hating, but right now, until you take feminism back, I can't use feminazi because that to me, that just makes me look like I'm, just being unduly harsh to feminism. No, I'm not. I'm just going to call it feminism because that's the face of feminism. So they accuse her of needing a man to get around and to being a slave to men and to being, just essentially submissive to men, right? And here are ways in the movie that Alita absolutely asserted herself. Number one, I say the first place where she actually asserted herself in the movie was when I don't want to miss a single spot. Yeah, I'll just start with the character Tanji, who was one of Hugo's friends. Hugo was her love interest, and Tanji was one of her his friends. And Tanji had a beef with Alita because she was She was she was a cyborg. She's a weapon. And another thing, she's a cyborg, meaning she's human. She's not a robot. You cannot strip her of her humanity. She is a human with a prosthetic body. She has a human brain, a female human brain. So she's not just choosing to identify as female. She actually is biologically female. Biologically female. Don't deny her or strip her of that. So even being a human in a prosthetic body, though, Hugo was right when he said that you are the most human person I have ever met. She's more human than these critics that are coming after her right now. But alright, moving on. So Tanji has a beef with her because her people, or as United Republics of Mars, she was once at war with Earth. So she was considered the enemy. Of course, this happened 300 years ago, but she was still considered the enemy. And so Tanji was holding on to this. He never liked her from the beginning. And when she was just learning the sport of motorball, just getting her feet wet, right? Just learning, trying to get used to skating. He hit her with everything he had and knocked her on her butt, caught her off guard and everything. He just knocked her on flat on her back, right? Did she ball up and cry or ask for help or ask for somebody to go get that big mean man who just knocked her on her butt? No, she got back up. As a matter of fact, Hugo lent his hand. He reached his hand out to Alita to help her up off the ground, and she pushed his hand out of the way. Not in a not even she. It was so subtle, meaning it wasn't meant to be the focus of that scene. Not like in the Force Awakens, where Rey is constantly smacking Finn's hand out the way, saying, "Don't hold my hand, don't hold my hand." She didn't draw it. No, she just simply moved his hand out of the way. She didn't need his help. She got back up on her own, got back on her skates, and lined up for the second round, basically the second round of motorball. And she had her eye on her target the whole time, not looking for somebody to help her, not feeling sorry for herself, but knowing she was about to get back in the game. And she went after Tanji. She got her payback and she scored. Never once did she even look like she needed help. A man's help, as a matter of fact. Moving on. When they're in the alley, what's her name? Not Alita, but Dr. Ito. Alita was concerned that Dr. Ito might actually turn out to be a serial killer, so she followed him to see what he was doing that night. Turns out he was a bounty hunter. Now he falls into a trap, and these bounty hunters surround him, and Alita is watching from around the corner. And Dr. Ito tells Alita to run because he's trying to protect her. That's what mostly a man would do, but that's mostly what anybody, regardless of gender, would do. They would, for somebody who they care about, they would tell them, run, flee. Alita ran, but she didn't run away from the fight. She ran to the fight. So she actually defied the instructions of her adoptive father right there, even though they were still early in their relationship, and she hadn't yet accepted him as her adoptive father. So she ran to the fight. She got into it, and she won that fight, right? And she saved him. She saved his life. That was the second time she asserted herself, and she actually went against a man's instructions to do it. Now, let's talk about this relationship she has with Ito. Ito is the man who found her in the scrapyard. She was still alive, miraculously, as he said. Her human brain was still alive. And he put her in a new body. He put her in the body that he meant for his daughter. So in some way, it's not even really, it's downplayed, but it's not very subtle at all, that Dr. Ito was trying to use Alita to replace his dead daughter. And Alita told him later in the movie, she said, "I'm not your daughter." Well, when he explains where the body came from, and this is pretty much immediately right after the fight in the alley where she saved his life, he explained to her where that body came from, that it belonged to his daughter who was deceased. She never got to use that body. And because she was murdered, and Alita asks him, "Well, did you ever find peace?" And Dr. Ito tells her, "I found you." And she tells him, "I'm not your daughter." But she doesn't do it in a cold way. She does it in a warm, sympathetic way to him. But to assert herself that she is her own person and she is not what Dr. Ito wants her to be. So even though she's trying to recover her memory, she can't remember who she is. She knows who she is not. You follow me? So she is never in this movie a person who needs a man to show her the way, or who is submissive to man, or who is molded into a person by the men around her, but she is learning from the people around her. Let's not make a mistake about that. But we'll get into that. So this is a true feminist character, at least what feminism should be. So after the alley incident, and then after learning that the body came from was meant for Dr. Ito's deceased daughter, Alita, and he gave that name to Alita, Alita decides she decides she wants to get into, she wants to become a bounty hunter like Ito. And the reason she wants to do this is because she feels that when she is in combat, she has flashbacks of her past life, and that she can remember who she was before if she could just get into another life or death situation, or to fight more. She was a weapon. She is subconsciously drawn to battle. She doesn't really fully understand this yet, though. And so as Dr. Ito, wanting to protect her, still seeing her as some way as a replacement to his own daughter, his deceased daughter, he refuses to allow her to become a bounty hunter. And what Alita does is she says, okay, fine, I'll find my own way. So there was another place where Alita asserted herself, not even remembering who she was yet, but still asserting that she wasn't what people were trying to make her. So yes, she does fall in love with Hugo, this character Hugo, when she first sees him, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with love at first sight. And there's especially nothing wrong with a woman falling in love with a man. There's nothing wrong with that. So she immediately goes to meet Hugo again after, and what she says to Hugo is, he just wants me to be his perfect little girl. Basically, if I'm not mistaken, I've seen the movie plenty of times. I should know that line by heart right now. And so Hugo says, well, are you going to live by his rules or yours? And of course, Alita is going to live by her own rules. Once again, I don't want to use the word blatant, but it's on the nose that she is living on her own. She is not being guided by anybody else's motivations or anybody else's demands. Completely contrary to what's being said about her by feminists. So after going out with Hugo this night, she goes out with him again and finds a ship, an erm ship that she was probably once on board, or a ship like it. I mean, yeah, she was on board a ship like it. And there she finds a body, a prosthetic body, a cyborg body that was actually, she was made to interface with, or that was made to interface with her. So this was her body. She wasn't in that body, but she knew that this was the body for her. It wasn't just a body that she wanted. It was a body that belonged to her. That made her complete, that made her who she truly was. So she was finding herself. That's what that body represented. She was finding herself. And she took that body back to Dr. Ito and asked him to put her in that body. And Dr. Ito refused, because that it was a dangerous weapon, number one. It was going to make her even more dangerous than she was already. And I think the primary reason, though, why he did not want to put her in that body is that Dr. Ito was still clinging to his deceased daughter, Alita. He did not want to let her go. So he refused to put her in that body. So what did Alita do? Did she submit as the feminist critics say she did? No, she said, all right then. She left. She said she'd do it all by herself, right? She left. She went and registered herself as a bounty hunter against her adoptive father's wishes. And as soon as she became a bounty hunter, she went to the bounty hunter's bar and began trying to recruit bounty hunters to join her battle. And as a further, so when she gets to the door though, Hugo tells her, what are you doing? This is for bounty hunters only. And of course she reminds him that she is a bounty hunter now. But his point is, you're getting in way too deep. You're getting in over your head, and you need to stop. But she says, before that though, even before that, he tells her that since she become a bounty hunter, Dr. Ito is going to be pissed. He's going to be upset about it. And she reminds him, well, whose rules do I live by again? Her own rules. She's asserting herself. Now, there's going to be a price to pay for this, but at the same time, it's not that she was wrong for living by her own rules, but that she did act unwisely in the way she went about it. So she's going to pay for acting without wisdom here. So getting into this bounty hunters bar, she meets, I guess, what you would call if there was such a thing as toxic masculinity, which I don't know. I won't even go there. Let's just say she runs into an extremely egotistical person, a malicious person who just happens to be male. All right. And when she enters this bar, one of the first things we see is this character, Zapan, beating up on other people in the bar, right? Why is that important? Because he's being established as the top dog. He's being established as the alpha male in this wolf pack here. And he sees her, right? So you have to imagine this guy he knows he's the baddest guy out there. And he's in there asserting himself. And he sees Alita, this small, petite woman, walk into the bar with this just a pretty boy, but for the most part, just this unimpressive human. And he's like, okay, we got some fresh meat here. I'm going to go over there and assert myself. Let them know what's up. And so he goes over there to Alita, even tries to pull her away from the boy that she's with, asserting himself again as this top dog. It's a really subtle context that people are just missing here. He's asserting himself over her, and she removes his hand, and she begins to go as if he didn't really exist. Like she was not fazed by it at all. She didn't go out of her way to say, "I am woman, hear me roar." She just simply, okay, whatever, brushed him off, continued to go on. So after failing to get people to join her, she decided to take a more physical approach to things. And so when Zapan began to continue to flirt with her, she began to insult him. And when she basically pulled his card, he reacted violently and she kicked his butt, right? Broke his nose. And after that, and that mistake is going to cost her later on. But after that, then she starts to fight with everyone in the bar, right? I don't see any submissiveness here. And even when Grishka, the person she fought in the alley, when Ito was trapped and, they were attempting to kill him, she fights this big hulking guy. First of all, he enters the bar and Ito shows up, and when Grishka punches a hole in the ground and goes down into the hole and tells Alita to follow him, Ito, of course, he tells her, no, don't do it, don't follow him. He's still telling her what to do. But some of this is not always as him trying to control her. It's really, he does genuinely care for Alita, but he also wants her to be his daughter. He's still making her his daughter when she's not really that. So Of course, she defies him and she goes down there anyway into the hole. And she fights Grishka. She's losing because he's stronger now. He cuts her body up. She's reduced to having one arm. But yet, even with that one arm, she continues to fight. And she tells him, as she puts her fist through his eye socket, burying her arm up to her elbows in his skull, or elbow, since she only has one now. She tells him to his face, fuck your mercy. Okay. No submissiveness here. No victimhood here. How can this not be empowering? Anyway, so, but the situation is she's going to die because she basically has to break her arm off, her one last arm off in his eye socket. And she's just the torso now and she's going to get killed. So this is when Ito and Hugo show up and they save her from getting killed. They don't defeat Grishka, but they prevent her from being killed. And Ito finally he apologizes to her at this point because his unwillingness to let go of his deceased daughter almost got Alita killed. Yet at the same time, Alita also acted brashly and maybe without wisdom and taking on these, well, I guess Grishka was going to come after her in the first place, but Ito apologizes to her because he wouldn't have put her in a body that would have made her better suited to handle Grishka when he returned because he was still clinging to his deceased daughter. So he's finally letting go now. He puts Alita in that body, that new body that conforms to Alita's subconscious image of herself, to the way Alita sees herself in her head. And she doesn't have large breasts. She maybe has a B cup at the max. And she's very thin. She has shape, a female shape like a female should, or mostly if you just stripped away all the fat and just got down to the muscle, you will see that female shape there. Women have narrower waist and wider hips, and that's what she had, right? So, beyond that though, the point is she was in her body now, and Hugo said, you were right. A warrior spirit deserves needs a warrior's body. So Alita had finally found herself, and there was no man who took her to that point. She actually had to go against what men were telling her in order to get to the point where she found herself and she became who she was meant to be. Right, so that was the symbolism of her getting into the body that was more mature, and because that's who she was. She wasn't the little girl that Ito wanted her to be. She was a beautiful adult female killing machine. So another point where she asserts herself in this movie is when actually, you know, I think that's probably good enough. I think that sums it up. I don't want to make the video go on too long. As for Hugo, he was a scoundrel. He wasn't if you ask me, he wasn't overly evil, but he wasn't a good guy either. But you don't determine who you fall in love with. Nobody has to be good enough to be loved by you. All right? Or by me or anybody else. You love a person for reasons sometimes you don't understand. And so Alita loved Hugo, whether he deserves it or not. Oh, and this reminds me of the point where I wanted to bring up. When Alita offers her heart, she says to him, I'll do anything I can for you. I'll give you whatever I have. And she takes her heart out of her chest and says, I give you my heart. Right? Because he could sell that heart and get the rest of the money that he needs. He would get more than the money that he needs in order to realize his dream and go to Zalem, the city in the sky. And she was willing to give him that. But he tells her, no, don't just do things for people. right? So this is where I guess they would call this mansplaining. He's mansplaining her. Look, don't just do things for people, no matter how good you think they are or how deserving you think they are. So he's admitting him to right now, look, I'm not worth what you're trying to do for me. It's not like the guy went around thinking, oh yeah, she loves me and I deserve to be loved by her. No, he's like, I'm not deserving of what you're trying to do for me. And the leader tells him, look, it's all or nothing with me. This is who I am. Not this is who you want me to be, or this is who that person wants me to be. This is who I am. It's all or nothing with me. Here's my heart. That was the leader asserting herself. But he tells her, look, just put it back. All right. Just don't do it. Okay. And of course she does put her heart back in her own chest, and she apologizes for getting a little too aggressive, but she was just that passionate, and she wanted to express her love to him. And there's, once again, nothing wrong with that. But she asserted herself the whole way through the movie, and she took control of her own destiny. Alita was not somebody else's marionette or puppet at all. And I hope that is the lasting message. I hope that is what Alita is remembered for, and not remembered as a quote sex doll, or not even sex doll, or a love doll, or what else do they call her, a sex bot. None of these things. She's been called all of these things multiple times, and none of these things apply. None of them are true. So hopefully, remember, as a whole, more as a wider population of people in this world will come to recognize Alita for these virtues than these negative things that are being said about her. And let's get that sequel. Let's get 2 more movies. Support any way you can, through merchandise or buying merchandise, or seeing the movie multiple times, taking people with you. This is the Alita Challenge, okay? This is the Alita Challenge. The Alita Challenge is still going. It's still alive. Keep supporting the movie. Keep telling people about the movie, and keep putting the positivity out there. Since our social media is down, there's no social media for Alita. It hasn't been for 2 weeks, probably a little bit more than 2 weeks now. So we're all the social media that the movie has. Don't worry about it. I think it's fine. I think James Cameron knows exactly what's going on. He has the rights to the movie. All he needs is a distributor. And regardless of how the money shakes out for who gets what for this first movie, he still is going to make money off it. He's not going to lose money. And if he's not losing money, he's making the sequel. All right. That's a given. And he doesn't need Disney. He can go anywhere else with his property. It's his property. Nobody else's. All right. So thank you all for watching. Thanks for listening.